When I did my Akashic Records training,
that we're able to go live on Facebook.
When I did my Akashic Records training back in 2018, we were on a platform. It was called Learn It Live, and it was what eventually became Zoom for me. And I thought, oh my God, that's how I want to teach, because there were 48 of us and it was international. And we have that now in the morning platform where we meditate and do some channeling. And that's what we're going to be doing with the Sophia Code. It's kind of like a mastermind, book club. Everybody's encouraged to read, and then we'll play the recording of Sophia reading the initiations and going through them together. So I'm thrilled about this journey that we're all going to join on together. And if your heart feels called, please come join us. We'll do the same initiation both on a Monday and on a Thursday. Mondays will be at 1 o'clock Eastern, and then Thursdays will be at 7 p.m. Eastern, to try and catch the people in Europe on Monday and the people on the West Coast on Thursdays. So I'm very excited for that journey. Should be really, really cool. All right, I don't know where Jean is, but we can go ahead and begin. So good evening, everybody. This is Reverend LaBorde, and this is Sohmalife Sundays. We're getting ready to wrap up for the year. This has been a 9-month journey with myself and my friend and my partner in this, Rob Scarpa. Rob is traveling with his family today. We were scheduled to have Jean Foltzer come as our guest, but I don't know where Jean is. I wonder if something happened. I don't have a message from him. But basically what we've been doing, oh, here he is. Yay!
There is he. He's there.
Hey, welcome. You're muted. Still muted.
There we go.
Unmuted. Okay, great. I was just announcing that Sohmalife Sunday has been a journey that my friend Rob and I talked about last summer, where he said, I'd like to do a weekly show where we can do some channeling and talk to people about their journey with spirit. And that's what we've done. And it's been quite a delightful time. We've had amazing speakers. We've had some very loyal friends who show up every week, like Norbert and Lloyd and Deborah. Deborah was going to try and join us today. She's busy readying her house for summer. I've been spending time in the sun. I'm getting a nice little tan. I'm so excited. It's the first time I've gotten tan in so long. I love life in Virginia. Oh my God. And this whole weekend, Gina was just saying I've been digital free. So this is my first coming back online. I came back to a lot of messages. It was quite fun. But I just love the peace, the quiet. I'm on the water. It's just been beautiful. Everyone keeps telling me it's going to get hot as Hades in the summer, but in the meantime, I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. And my cat and I are just having the time of our lives. So thank you all and welcome. This is my friend Jean Foltzer. Jean and I met at a community online that is called Channeling Jesus. And it's run by a woman by the name of, oh my God, Tina Spalding. Totally spaced. I've been so out of digital. I've been like in my books and in meditation and all that. Tina Spalding had a Kundalini download in about 2012, and a presence came through called Ananda, and she wrote a book called Making Love to God. Then they told her that she was going to be bringing through 20, she was going to be a medium and going to bring through 20 different voices to kind of tell their stories from the other side. And I think she said she got to number 15 and she was like, please don't let Jesus be in here. And by the time she got to number 19, she was like, please don't let number 20 be Jesus. And of course it was. She said she didn't want to be known as that person that channeled Jesus. And anyway, they wrote a book together called Jesus, My Autobiography. And I came across Tina. Anyway, and then I came across Jean. Jean was one of the first friends that I had over there. And Jean and I started a mastermind of people that were studying, A Course in Miracles. And then we met our friend Deborah out of that. Deborah was a local Long Island girl. And the thing has grown and grown and grown. And now there's a community of anywhere between like 25 and 30 of us that meet in the mornings. And people come and people go. And we study we've all been studying the Course in Miracles. And most recently have been studying The Way of Mastery, which is another publication that Jesus channeled through a man named Mark Hammer. And Jean has had a really fascinating journey with spirit. So I invited him to come be our guest tonight to talk about what that has been like. So Gene, please welcome, welcome, welcome to the platform. Hi, Jackie. Would you share with us what this lifetime's journey of spirit has been like for you?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for having me. And it's been quite a roller coaster ride between Lynn and I. We've had, we started out because I happened to see she was a yoga teacher, and I was thinking about doing some yoga. And she was saying, well, I had a back operation. I have some rods and screws on my back. And she said, well, you probably should try and get some private lessons. So I play in a band, and like a week after we talked, or a few days after we talked, my band played for a Rotary Club, a Tricky Tray Valentine's Day dance, and they had baskets and stuff. So I bought some tickets and I put some baskets in. I wound up winning a basket for private yoga lessons. And so I said to her, hey, I won some yoga lessons. She goes, yeah, I know. I manifested them for you.
No, I said I prayed for you to have a yoga mat in your life. I don't think I was that blunt, but
You said you manifested.
right.
You said I'm a manifester. You should know that about me.
I said I'm a manifester and I prayed for you to have them. I don't think I used the words I manifested them.
Oh, okay, all right.
Whatever.
But that's how Lynn and I met, and we've had some very interesting dynamics between us. We've kind of went up, then we went down, and went down, and now we're just going up. And so I've always been curious about this thing called God. I was raised Catholic, but not overbearingly so. My parents really didn't go to church once in a while, but I had to get my sacraments, so I went for my communion about 8 years old, and I went through all the classes and stuff. And I didn't know this till later, so I received my communion, and we had a big family. So what my mother would do is she would take us to whatever church most of the kids were going to around the same age. I had like 20 something cousins. So she would get a bunch of cousins together who were ready to receive communion. We'd all go together. So she and my relatives were there watching this communion ceremony. I remember the ceremony. I just don't remember, what she saw, but she's watching me. And she didn't tell me this until, maybe like 20 years ago. She goes, I watched you when you were in that ceremony, and you were taking it so seriously. All the other kids were being kids, and you were just like really, really focused on it. And she goes, I really thought maybe you were going to grow up to be a priest or something. So that was the first one. I don't go to church.
Lifetime, but definitely others.
Yes, not the exact, definitely others. I've heard that, and you've told me so, and I've felt it. So anyway, I go on, and it's the normal once in a great while go to church type thing, and it comes time for me to get my confirmation. I go back to the classes because I was going to public school, so I'd go to class after school, and they were talking about a lot of stuff, and it just didn't make sense. Stuff just didn't make sense to me. I don't understand this. It was like, okay, so we're all being bad and we're sinners, so God's going to send his son down here, and then he's going to kill him on our behalf. And that just didn't make sense, because if I were mad at Lynn, for instance, if I got mad at her, and in my mind, I wanted her to be punished, why would punishing someone else relieve that, that need? This need for destruction just didn't make sense to me, especially if it was coming from somebody called God. So all these things just didn't make sense. And another thing they said that just didn't make sense was, there's all this order of sins. There's the lesser sins and the worst sins and all this kind of stuff. Again, wasn't quite sure how all that worked, and especially when they said, if you think about something, it's a sin. And I was like, well, why does that work? Because I didn't do it. I just had thought about it. So what I developed when I was young, when I was getting all these things from the church, and certainly I have to add in the behavior of the nuns and priests at the church I went to, were nothing near exemplary. They were out and out nasty people. I had to bring a nickel, okay, one time to buy some kind of a publication, and when I was going for my confirmation, and I didn't have a nickel. I had a dime. So I went to the priest and asked him if he could do it. He goes, yeah. He goes, I'll give you the nickel. He goes, but I'm keeping the dime. So that was the, it was just strange. So what I developed when I was young, I was very curious. I'd ask a lot of questions about things, about anything. And I never often got the answers that were satisfactory. So I developed something in my mind, which I call, which in my mind is this closet. It's like a hall closet, typical kind of closet you have in a house where you open the door, there's a bar where you hang your clothes. Above the bar is a shelf. So all the things that I was curious about, but I couldn't get answers to, I would put them in these little virtual shoe boxes and I'd put them up on the shelf. And they were there if I, got curious about it. For when the time came, I would learn about them. And that became significant later on. So eventually I had this whole warehouse full of unanswered questions. And so I went through and I got and as I was going for the confirmation, instructions, again, I was being told a lot of stories that just didn't quite make sense. But then they gave me this book. And this book said, here, this is like 40 or so questions that you need to know the answers to. Because in order to get confirmed, you would need to pass a test. And I went, okay, so this, at least I can handle this. Memorize these 40 questions. Some of them were long. You needed to memorize the Apostles' Creed and all this other kind of stuff. So once I latched onto that, I said, okay, this is easy now. This is like just a regular schoolwork assignment. Memorize, 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 which I did. I passed. I got my confirmation. And again, still a lot of unanswered questions. So continue on. I go into graduate school, go into college, took a freshman course with a teacher whom I'll never forget. Her name was Dr. Janine Barrett. And she was a really good literature teacher. She was my freshman literature teacher. So later on, third year in college, I needed an easy course that I could just pass. I was a finance and accounting major. I was taking these heavy duty finance courses. I needed something easy. So I took this course called Mythology and Literature. I'm like, this is going to be easy. I got to memorize, Mars is the god of war and, Apollo is the god of the sun. This is easy peasy. Unbeknownst to me, this was not an easy peasy course. This was a English major's major course. Mythology and Literature, she took us through 21 books in a semester, starting out with 2001, The Space Odyssey, going through Egyptian mythology, Norse mythology, Dante's Inferno, Emerson, Thoreau, Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, Voltaire, Candide, Siddhartha, Jason and the Argonauts. I mean, it was unbelievable. And we had to keep a journal. And she started explaining these things like archetypal things and the collective unconscious and Carl Jung and the collective unconscious, and explaining that there is a thread that goes through life. And there's this collective unconscious that we are just little bubbles. Each of us is connected underneath. And it was really just fascinating to me. It got into existentialism, and I was failing miserably. I mean, let's face it, I could not keep up with the workload, but I was fascinated in class. I would listen, and it was just amazing. So we get to it was a fall semester. We get to the end of the fall semester, and I just went to her and I said, hey, Dr. Barrett, look, I'm sorry. I love the class, but I have not been able to do the work. I'm an accounting major, so it's a lot of time. So I'm sorry, you're just going to have to fail me. So she said, oh, no, we don't have to do that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you an incomplete for the fall semester. You just come back in the spring semester. Don't register for the class, but just audit the class, sit in and go through the class again, and you can do the assignments then. And whatever you grade you get at the end of the second semester, that'll be the grade I give you. I said, wow, that was a really generous offer. So I do that. And again, I couldn't do all the work. So at that point, I just had to take an F for the course. But I had 2 whole semesters of just being immersed in things that just expanded my mind, just blew my mind up. And that was in 1977. or I was 76, 77. And what comes out in 77? Star Wars. And I'm looking at Star Wars talking about the Force and all the invisible force and all these things. And now all this kind of stuff is starting to coalesce. And I remember going to her, because I wasn't even in her class anymore, but going to her saying, "Did you see this movie?" And she's like, "Yeah, and it's a sci-fi movie, but it's a spiritual movie too, etc." So lots of things are happening. I get out of school, I start working. I get out of college, I start working. I jump around in different. I came out as an accountant. I jumped around in several different businesses. It was in one of the big. They called it the Big 8 public accounting firms. It was a national public accounting firm. I worked for them for 2 years. I was tortured there. I didn't like it. Did a few other things. And long story short, I'm at a point where I decide I want to be. They used to have those TV show Lifetimes of the Rich and Famous. I wanted to be one of the rich and famous. So I set my goals. I'm reading books on setting goals and all this other kind of stuff. Totally materialistic. And so I read a book called Think and Grow Rich, and by Napoleon Hill. And so I'm reading this book, and I'm expecting like real concrete things that I should do to become a millionaire. And I even bought myself this little Porsche, when I was going to have I was the representative of the Porsche I was going to own someday. So I start reading this book, and this book is telling you things like, write down your goals, say them out loud in the mornings after you get up, say them out loud at night. Put together this council of imaginary people that could be dead or alive and have these imaginary conversations. And I'm going, I know this guy is supposedly famous, but what is all this crap I'm reading? This is not the how to get rich. This is airy fairy stuff. I don't get it. And I'm reading it, and then he's talking about, well, sexual transmutation of energy. I'm like, oh no, this guy's off the freaking wall. Okay. But yet I'm trying to be rich and famous, and I'm getting this stuff that is non-physical. So I read the book, and I look at it, and then another book comes my way, and it was a book called Creating Your Own Luck. And it was about a guy who's a salesman. And again, he starts talking about all these non-physical mental things that you have to do. And now I'm starting to say, well, maybe there's something to this stuff, So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about it. And so at the time, again, I still wanted to be rich and famous. I just wanted money. My father was a successful businessman. I wanted to be a successful businessman. Your father's pulled himself up from his bootstraps, got his own gas station service repair business, made lots of money, had a couple stations and whatnot. I wanted to be successful like him. So I decided to go into the business of headhunting, executive recruiting, because I had a friend of mine who made a ton of money in this business. So he hires me and I go to work for him. So here I am now at this point, leaving all the training I had behind, going strictly for money. And I am basically operating at 180 degrees from my true self. I am calling people up on the phone. I am cold calling people. I'm searching for jobs. I thought these people had some kind of magic that they used. I looked on the people who helped me get jobs as counselors, and I wanted to be like a work counselor. Instead, I'm a used car salesman who's calling up, making cold calls, saying, "Oh, and I'm tricking my way into departments. I'm trying to find, and I'm lying, out and out lying to people, getting people's names, making phone calls, finding out, sending people out. I'm really stretching the truth because my boss would say, look, people think they want this and think they want that, and then you just send them out on any opportunity, and you never know what's going to hit. So I am now operating 180 degrees from my true self. And I was just at the lowest of the low. So now not only am I not impressing my father, I'm borrowing money from my father to feed my family. It's like I've got like a 3 or 4 year old, and my wife's going, "Are you sure it is?" She's supporting me, but I'm failing miserably. So at one point, she says, you really have to get back. We got a family here. You really have to get back into accounting. So I talked to my friend who hired me, and he said, you know, he goes, you're at a crossroads. Something I do whenever I'm at a crossroads is I go to a psychic. And I'm like, are you kidding me? He goes, no, no. He's a very successful man. He goes, no. He goes, that's how I wound up here, blah, blah, blah. So he gives me some names and places to go. And he points me to this little place about 30 miles away from, 25 miles away from my house called Church of the Mystic Light. It is an old abandoned church, somewhat run down, but there's a very dedicated group of people who meet there on Sundays, and they hold classes there and everything. So I go, and they're having a psychic fair one day, and I get a couple of readings and whatnot, and it was interesting, and I gave it a good shot. And so finally I bumped into this one woman I went to her house, and she used regular playing cards, and she put out all the cards, and I'm asking about my career in the future. And she says, I see a lot of computer screens and stuff like that in your future. Now, I did like computers. I had one as a hobby. And she said, no, I really see a lot of computer stuff in your future. I said, well, I'm an accountant. She goes, no, computers are going to be big. I said, okay. And she goes, and by the way, you're going to have another job. And I said, no, I'm not. She said, no, yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. So I said, well, you better tell me who it's going to be with, because it's not going to be with my wife, because she only wants one child. She only wants one child. So she said, no, she goes, it's strong. She goes, hold on. So she does the cards again, and the same card winds up in the same spot. She goes, look, I don't care what you say. I'm sorry. Spirit's telling you you're having another child. This was in November. I'm now looking for a job to go back into accounting, because this is the only thing that's going to pay the bills. So I wind up getting a job in January 10th, somewhere around there, with Pfizer, who was a subsidiary of Pfizer. And I got an accounting job, but they wanted someone who had familiarity with computers, because they had just installed a new computer system. So knowing about computers, but they weren't the main thing. They were happy to have me. I was happy to have the job. And 3 days later, my wife says, you know, I'm not feeling well. I think I should take a pregnancy test. And I said, okay. So back then, the pregnancy tests, you know, you had to go urinate in the bottle, and you had to put some drops in, and you had to shake it up and wait. So she's like, she hands me the full bottle. She goes, here, you do this. And she's not real thrilled about that. So I put the stuff in, I shake it up, and we have a split level house, about 6 stairs down to the kitchen. I put the bottle on the vanity in the bathroom. I walk downstairs. I just about fill the coffee machine, and I hear this scream that says, it's blue. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She says, it's blue. I said, it's supposed to take a half an hour. She goes, I don't give a shit, it's blue. Well, sure enough, here comes our second child. So all this is starting to say, okay, psychics, reading these books, you do these mental exercises. I still was at the low point in my career, and because I didn't know how good this job was going to be. So going to this church, I come across a woman who does healing. So she says, let's do some energy work. We got to calm you down. So I go to her. Her name was Helen King. And I had a few sessions with her, and she would do energy work with me, kind of Reiki. She didn't call it Reiki, she just called it energy work. It was energy balance. It felt very good. And she said, and I would talk with her on the phone. She goes, look, she goes, I want you, and there's 3 or 4 other people who are interested. I want you to meet me Thursday night at the church. And she had to drive like an hour from Pennsylvania to go to the church. So we meet at the church on this night. She hands us a book called Course in Miracles. She says, you need to read this book. She goes, all of you. She goes, this is for you. I'm being told this is for you. So we said, okay. So we respected her. So we got together the next week, and we sat there, and 4 of us don't know anything about it. And we start reading this book, and the book starts out with these things called miracle principles, and they're stating very lofty things like, there is no order of difficulties in miracles. You know, there's no big and small, and basically saying like you can raise the dead, or you can make a plant feel better or something. And it's the same thing. And we're looking at each other going, what do these things mean? I don't know. We're supposed to read it. So we kept reading on. And as we start going into the text, a little bit more makes sense. And if we meet week after week, a little bit more makes sense, a little bit more makes sense. And then two things happen. Number one, we found out that there's actual study groups going on. So we joined a study group, and we start getting a better picture of that. Secondly, in this church, they had a library, a lending library, and they had these tapes by Paul Steinberg. And he is not someone who's mentioned usually in the Course in Miracles history. But if you Google him, which I did, because he's very, very connected and was very instrumental in bringing the Course around. And he would do these audio tapes and videotapes. And we're getting to the point that Course in Miracles is my main body of study. And it's what resonates with me and has since 1986. So I check these tapes out, and in these tapes, Paul is explaining how he uses and examples of how the Course helped him and helped other people. And at one point, he's talking about being in a candy store or some kind of a store that was being robbed, and a robber comes in and he's demanding money, and he starts hearing from Holy Spirit what he should say to the robber. And he says something that he was guided to say, and it hits home, and he winds up like helping the guy, and and all that kind of a thing. And I went, wow, okay. And then he's talking about another part where him or his friend was looking for a job. He was out of a job for a while, and he got a download I'm using current terminology. He got a download from Holy Spirit that he was waiting. He says, I'm supposed to wait and see what I'm supposed to do. And his wife would say, what are you doing? And he's just sitting in a chair. He goes, I'm waiting for my instructions or whatever. And he was told that he had to go to a certain place at a certain time, and then he would meet somebody who looked like such and such or whatever. And so then when he felt that he really had gotten this message from Spirit, he went and did it. And so I'm starting to understand how the Course could manifest in real life. And then now all this mental stuff that I was hearing about Napoleon Hill and what you think about, you manifest and all. So now I'm really starting to get the idea that there's a hell of a lot more to life than just doing things. So I start this voracious appetite of reading any book I can get my hands on. I'm reading about chakras. I'm reading, and Shirley MacLaine was a big influence too. I was in a bookstore, her book, Dancing in the Light, I think it was, came out, and I saw a big stack of it at Barnes & Noble one time, so I bought it. I don't know why I bought it. I bought it, and I didn't do anything with it for like 9 months, and I started reading it, and I'm realizing the kind of things that she's in. And I wound up going to one of her weekends. And I'm learning about learning more about, she's teaching us about the chakras and how to spin your chakras and what they mean and what they stand for. So I just start going on this metaphysical binge of learning. And I am so excited because so many of the boxes, all these little unanswered questions from when I was young started getting answered. And now the world is making sense. Well, why? The church said, well, thinking something is a sin. Well, why is it a sin? I didn't act on it. Well, what you think about is what you produce. It's what you align yourself with is what, continues to manifest. And all these things. And I'm so excited about this stuff. I mean, I'm just like, and I got really tough to live with. Okay. So my wife, who doesn't believe any of this stuff, she is,
when we step on that platform of, I got to tell everybody about this, and
this is
around us want to punch us in the nose.
Yeah, it's like when I discovered masturbation as a kid, and I thought I discovered something nobody knew about. I'm like, hey, I'm going to give lectures about how to do this. So, to this day, my wife doesn't see any of it, that she doesn't get any of it, she doesn't understand it. When I told her that I'm talking tonight, she kind of rolled her eyes and said, all right, I'll see you sometime afterwards, that type of a thing. But as I started reading the Course, going to the study groups once a week, occasional weekend here and there, binging on all this metaphysical stuff and seeing how it's all coalescing into things that are just making sense to me. Life is now starting to make sense. And I did the lessons, I went through the lessons. And then a friend of mine, there was a woman who, I forgot her name, but I still have her materials. She developed a course about studying the text. And it was like a classroom. And so a friend of mine who had been through the workbook and the text, et cetera, was going to offer these small group private course. And I signed up for it. It was a year study, and we went through the text, and we would read the text, a chapter, and then we would get homework assignments. You would, like when you were in class, and you had to answer questions about. So it kind of really helped you understand the test. It wasn't officially sanctioned, and later on it had to be discontinued because the Foundation for Inner Peace said, "Hey, you're teaching stuff," and this was back during the days of the copyright, lawsuits and things like that. But I did take the course, and now I really understood the text, and I don't know if I had finished the lessons at that time. I was doing I think I did. Anyway, I enjoyed that so much, I signed up a second year, and we went through the exact same course again and read the text thoroughly, answered all the homework questions, etc. And here's one of the ways that it manifested in my life. So here I was in accounting, and they hired me because I really enjoyed computers. And I understood computers, and they had just put in a new accounts payable system, and the woman who put it in was basically having a nervous breakdown. They said, "Look, you need to come in. We promised her, just get the system installed. We will hire somebody else, and then we're going to give you another job in accounts receivable and get you away from this crazy accounts payable system." And that's what I did. So I came in and I learned the system. I understood the system, and I became very close with the guys. Back then it was called data processing, which are the computer guys. And I became very close with them. And I started saying, if we take the system, we have a very labor intensive system that we use here to deal with people's expense reports. And if we can just modify the system somewhat, we can make our labor time a lot less. And so I would work with them, and we would actually modify the system to make it easier to use, et cetera. And I really started getting friendly and close with the computer guys. And by this time I really wanted to be into computers. I was so tired of being an accountant because it was so routine. I knew what I was doing on Monday, and on Tuesday, and on Wednesday we cut the checks, and on Thursday we sent them out, and on Friday we started the whole routine over again of entering a new accounts payable and all that kind of stuff. I was fascinated with computers, and I would always say, go with what I told my kids, I said, look, your job as kids, your job as children is this. You need to go and try as many possible different things that you can think of, okay? Take as many different classes, try as many different things. Pay attention to whatever it is that you're doing, that when you're doing it, time just disappears. That is what is going to be for you, because you're going to really, really enjoy it. And because you enjoy it, you're going to be really, really good at it. I had PC magazines all over the house. I had them in every bathroom. So if I went to the upstairs bathroom, I could read an article. I had them in the downstairs bathroom. I had them all over the place. I had them in the car. If I had to wait for something, I would read these pieces. And I just love computers. So this computer stuff was growing. So what happened was a new job opened up in the computer department for a PC specialist. And so I applied for the job. And I was friendly with the people over there, and I really pitched myself and whatnot, went through the interviews. And so this guy I potentially was going to work for, Paul, calls me up and he goes, "Okay, hey, I just want to let you know, you're our top candidate. We're going to offer you the job. However, the only thing is I cannot give you a raise. It's going to be a lateral move. Okay, so you've been in your position for a year, whatever. You're going to stay at the same salary, no more salary, etc. And I just want to let you know. So take a few days to think about it." I said, "Okay." So my boss hears me get the offer, and he calls me in. And he says, "Hey, look," very thick Brooklyn accent. He says, "Look, I know that you are not thrilled with accounting, but look, you got to get your career on track. See, accountants like very steady progress. You start here, you go to this level, you go to this level, you go to this level. Well, what I did is I went through public accounting. I quit. I worked in my dad's business. I quit my dad's business. I went back into accounting for Hoffman LaRoche and went into auditing. I went into inventory accounting. Then I went into treasury. Then I quit. Then I went to be a headhunter. Then and so when I was trying to get back into accounting, which the job ultimately was at the Pfizer, I literally had one guy interview me and say, I got to ask you, what's wrong with you? You're all over the place. You've got jobs that just don't make any sense. And what we're going to say to that? So here I get offered the job, and Dennis, my boss, accounting boss, says to me, look, don't take the computer job. You need to steady out. You need to get some solidity. You need to get some momentum going. If you don't take the job over there, 3 months, I'm going to make a reorganization. You're going to be the general accounting manager. Okay. You're going to get a 5% raise. You're going to keep your accounting career going slow and steady up the ranks, and then after that, you've got the talent, you could go higher. And he says, you get a 5% raise. So now I'm saying to myself, okay, I stay in accounting and I get a 5% raise, or I go work for Paul in computers and I don't get any raise. And what am I going to do? So I knew from taking the course, I get in the shower. My teacher used to say, you have a question, ask the question, and then forget about it. And pay attention during the day. Something will give you an answer, something. So you'll notice. So just be aware. So I'm in the shower on that first day. Okay, Holy Spirit, I need to know what to do. I got to make a decision here. Go through my day. Something happens I'm in accounts payable. Something happens, and I don't remember what it was, but it was a clear sign I should take the accounting job. So this was maybe around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, hey, I got an answer. Well, by the end of the night, I convinced myself that was a bunch of bullshit, which, as Lynn knows, is used to be one of my favorite terms. That's a bunch of baloney. That's not real. I made this all up. I better ask again. The second day in the shower, Holy Spirit, I got to know what to do. Saved it. This went on for 4 days straight. Every day I would ask, and every day something different would happen. And by the end of the day, I convinced myself that it was my imagination. Finally, on the 5th day, I asked again, and 10 o'clock in the morning, something happened, and I said, okay, I'm going to take the accounting job. I'm going to take the computer job. So I go into my boss, and I said, Dennis, I'm sorry, I'm going to take the job over in the computer department. He goes, okay, go be happy, see if I care. I go into Paul, and I say, Paul, thank you for waiting, giving me the time. I'd be thrilled to take the job. Thank you so much for offering me the job. He goes, hey, I got some great news. I got you a 5% raise. So, it was just an affirmation of how these things go. So, the course for me is the secret to understanding the illusory world that we live in, the things that we put ourselves that aren't true, and give us the training to see the world through the eyes of the Holy Spirit. And that really is, it is the key to living a better life. But more than that, with the forgiveness, understanding forgiveness and why forgiveness. And so this is another one of those. Even when I'm studying the course, it's saying you have to forgive this. Somebody does something to you. You have to forgive them. How do you forgive something that happened? And again, that went up in my little closet. Okay, well, the course says it's true, but I don't know how it's supposed to be true, whatever. And then when you finally get to the point where you realize that the course says that this world is illusory, nothing really happened. You could not forgive somebody for attacking you if they really, really, really were attacking you. Because the forgiveness of this world is, yes, you attacked me, you hurt me, you fill in the blank. It's your fault. But I'm going to be the bigger person and I will pretend I forget about it. And that's forgiveness, according to the world. And according to the course, it is, no, this is all the dream. You're looking back at the dream. You never left home. You never left God. We are the Son of God. And more, as you practice the Course, you see that and you live that. And you understand that you have to forgive because A, nothing has really been done. B, anything that I think happened is my projection. I'm forgiving myself for judging and projecting when I forgive you. So I'm always forgiving myself. Anything that happens now, totally my responsibility, totally my reaction to what I think happened and my misunderstanding if I'm thinking through the mind of the ego. And this has just made all the difference in the world. Everything from giving me clarity in my life, in my marriage, in my children, in people that I've had, people I had plenty of opportunity to blame for things, including an accident I had 6 years ago where I wound up crushing my spine, slipping on a restaurant floor. And all through that, I was determined not to be a victim. I was not going to hold this gentleman responsible. Okay. And I knew when I looked at it through the eyes of Holy Spirit, I knew what that was all about. And I was able to let it go. And I don't tell the story anymore, other than to occasionally mention that it was something I went through, but no gory detailed stories with pictures and all that kind of stuff, because it's just not important. It never really happened. So for me, it's been such a blessing to have this in my life, to be able to understand more of how life really works. And now with the work I'm doing and work we're doing with Lynn, etc. I mean, we met through Tina's group. Now Tina's group was focused on A Course in Miracles, and Tina wrote several books. And one of the things that was amazing about reading Tina's books was I used to think that channeling, I used to think that hearing directly from spirit, be it either in visions or words, etc., I used to think that was only for a select few. And reading those books led me to understand that no, as you train your mind, as you listen to Holy Spirit, you will start to hear, you will start to communicate with things that are beyond this world, because the things that are beyond this world are the things that are real. And I started actually, I've started hearing, and I started actually channeling, and I didn't really call it channeling. I was just going to my meditation, and something said to me, okay, turn on, you should start writing. So I was writing, but I couldn't keep up with writing. So I tried typing, and I really couldn't keep up with typing. So I said, okay, I'm going to use the voice recorder. And I started. A couple of months ago, in earnest, I would, if I heard something, I would go with it. And, through all the training that I did with Lynn, and Lynn teaching me to read the Akashic records. Okay, this is a story we have to tell. So I go to Lynn's one day, and she says, I'm going to give you and I wound up getting my Reiki degree, first and second degree Reiki. Lynn says, she goes, I'm going to give you your master degree Reiki. And we go there, and she teaches me how to read the Akashic records. So we go into this thing, and so she said, okay, the records are now open. I read the prayer, and she's going, hello, hello, and I am in sheer terror. I can't yet speak. I couldn't say anything. I'm sitting on her couch, and it's like, it's crazy. And I'm like, she's, what's going on? What's going on? So she talks me through it, and long story short, I was in absolute terror because I was having a flashback to a lifetime. And I felt this huge weight in my chest. It was sharp, and it just penetrated across my breastbone like this. And I'm like, what's going on? And she's asking me to describe it. Long story short, I've got this axe embedded in my chest. Okay, that was from someone who I had a fight with. And as it turns out, it's my cousin, okay, and he's upset with me for stealing his wife in a prior life. And so Lynn talks me through it, and we managed to get this axe out. But I mean, I'm talking about rolling up in a ball, crying, shaking like crazy, and and I'm wondering how the hell she's gonna get me out of this, because I'm gonna just be here forever, and I'm gonna drive 2 hours home across the George Washington Bridge, just huddled up on my seat in the wall or something. So she winds up talking me through this. She does psychic surgery. She does incident handling. She does all the things that she teaches. And now here's the strange thing. So we go back, and it's my cousin who hits me, kills me with the axe because I stole his wife. Now my wife now used to be engaged to my cousin in this life. So it's a long story, but I had a girlfriend, he had a girlfriend, two girls needed an apartment together, so they got an apartment together. 2 or 3 years, and everybody broke up, and my wife went off and got married and divorced, and I wound up connecting up with her. But my cousin still felt that it was his girlfriend, and I stole his girlfriend again in this life, like I did in that past life. So anyway, the course is the reason I breathe. It's what I do. It makes sense of the world, and I'm just grateful for the entire journey. I look back at so many things over my life, kept pointing in the direction, but it had to be when I was really got knocked down to the point where I just couldn't make my life better myself, that I had to start turning to those things that were ethereal and not physical. So I'm very grateful to be where I am.
How has your reading Akashic records for other people changed your life? From the rough beginnings where you thought you couldn't read the records and you were paralyzed with fear, to the fact that you're now channeling for people. Tell us about that journey.
Well, I wasn't going to take your course. I wasn't going to sign up for this for the quantum course, and something just said to me, here's your opportunity to go further. Just do it and just jump in. And before I knew it, I had said yes, and I sent the money, and it was all done. And so we're learning to read the Akashic records more. So I had already done it and learned it, but I never really did it much. So when I did it for myself, and that's really when I started hearing things. It was almost like a ticker tape. And part of the whole fear of taking this class and anything like that is like, I'm going to try and I'm going to be the one person that tries it and nothing happens. Okay. I'm going to just totally be a failure. And I'm going to have wasted my money. And I came close to bailing out a couple of times, but
you kept calling me and asking to quit and get your money back. And I said, no.
Oh, I never quite asked for the money back. I just said, I don't think I'm going to continue. I would have given.
You were that close. Right.
So anyway, so as I started listening for myself, some I don't know who we were assigned assignments to do, and so I did a couple of readings, and what would happen is that I'm of myself trying to make sense of what I'm seeing. I'd be given a vision or something, and I'm trying to make sense of it, and I was doing a horrible job of trying to make sense of it, and I would kind of hear words coming, so I decided to trust the words. And the more I trusted the words, the more people were getting out of what I was doing. So it was really doing the work for others that gave me the feedback that, yeah, this is something for real. I did one for Deb, and she said, oh, you couldn't have known that. And I mean, the words popped into my head, and so I'm thinking, well, I'm going, well, it sounds really stupid. And I was like, I heard, okay, say it, so I said it. And she's like, oh my God, how could you have known that? Oh, but and like, the more that happened, the more confidence. I said, okay, so there's really something here. And then during our morning meditations, I started hearing the same kind of voice. So I started turning on my recorder and recording it. And then Willem told me of a site that I could upload my recording to, and it would transcribe it. I just had to correct it. And it has made all the difference in the world, because as I'm saying these things, even when I'm in reading, doing an Akashic record, I don't talk through the Akashic record. I start to talk, and then I just step back and I let the channeling come through. and I had to admit that it was channeling. The channeling come through, and trust that what's being said is, and don't judge it. And whatever's being said is being said because the other person needs to hear it. And when I do my meditation, or I do my own, channelings, and then I publish them, I've been putting them on Sohmalife and on Tina's group. I am just absolutely blown away by two things. First of all, I don't really remember exactly what I said during these channelings. So as I'm transcribing them, I'm going, that's when I really hear them for the first time. And when I'm transcribing them, and then I put them up there, and people are saying, "Oh my God, this is so good!" Or I mean, there are like a dozen people up on Tina's who are regularly like following me now and commenting on what they're getting from it. And then I have to go back and read it again and go, "Wow, that's some pretty good shit." but I don't know exactly what I said. So I always just assumed if someone was channeling, you'd automatically be following and paying attention to what it is you're channeling, but not necessarily. I have to go back and read it myself. And it's almost like I'm reading it for the first time. So doing the Akashic records really opened up all of this. And that's the only way I know how to do the records. I just let the words come through.
I also truly believe that the work that you did, clearing up what we call the harmful acts and withholds,
Yeah.
cleared you, because there was a lot that you were holding on to, and the self-purging and the self-forgiveness that you did, I think opened you up to something that was innate within you, which was the channeling. And I think that that's really the most powerful part of a journey with spirit, is when you get real, when you do the self-forgiveness, when you can forgive others, but really more importantly, yourself. I think it cleared the field. You did a lot of what I call clearing of the clairs, which was just getting a lot of guck out of the way. You know, your cousin killed himself this time rather than killing you. I mean, that's such a bizarre thing to say, but you know, it's very interesting, because what goes around comes around. He kills you one lifetime instead he has to kill himself. People hear that stuff and they're like, "You're crazy." But when you can have the kind of like the bird's eye view of the Akashic records and how it all unfolds, it's extraordinary how life manifests. And you don't see that stuff until you've cleared enough of yourself and brought enough light to be able to see the truth of something. And I think you've just done a really amazing job with that. And I'm really proud of you, Gene. You know, from where we started a year and a half ago, innocently chatting on, Tina's website, and then the mastermind, and, in comes Deb, and in comes Lloyd, and in comes, Michelle, all these amazing people, Norbert, that have just become part of our family, like people that we get to see every single day, and they feel like soul family, like we've known each other forever, and I think you've been just a huge part of that. I love the channeling that you're doing. I think you've opened yourself up. I called you a grumpy old wizard, and my opinion hasn't changed. I think that Billie Eilish seconds it. But I think that what you've done is you've really, you've embraced yourself, and you said, you know what, regardless of how uncomfortable this is, regardless of how much I don't want to do this, I'm going to stick with it. And you've really done that. And I just have such respect for you for that journey.
Well, I could not have done it without you. I mean, we were destined to do this work together. But yeah, I kind of got to the point where, like, look, I've done all the rest. Okay, the other thing is I was guided to retire. Okay, so I was with Pfizer for 22 years, got laid off on one of their many downsizings. They got rid of 50,000 people over the course of years, and I was one of them they got rid of. Got another job. Worked, and late 2017, I was kind of started getting the hint that I should retire. One of the guys I worked with, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and he announced he was retiring. We were in the city, and we go to a little happy hour retirement party for him. And the guy is a shell of himself. He must have had a mini stroke or something. And I was like, holy crap, am I going to work until that happens? And that was my first hint from spirit. I need to think about retiring. Then then that was in September. Then in December, I'm working with one of my clients who I see once a month, And he sends me a message before around Thanksgiving. He says, "Hey, Gene, can you send me the latest report on such and such? I want to update something." So, okay, yeah. Well, end of the year is a very busy time. I get busy. I don't send him the information. Just before Christmas, he says, "Hey, Gene, just a friendly reminder. Could you please send the information?" I was at the December meeting. I noticed Jeff wasn't there. Jeff sends me a note, Christmas Eve. "Can you please just send me the report? No pressure. I want to be ahead of the game." Okay. We go. Christmas vacation is a time when we were off between Christmas and New Year's. So now it's the beginning of the year, and I went, "Oh crap! This is Tuesday night. Oh crap! I got the meeting with Jeff and the other people, the rest of the Prudential team. They were my client. I got a meeting with them tomorrow morning. I never gave Jeff his report. So 8 o'clock at night, I send out the report. I get up in the morning, 7:45 in the morning. I'm in the car. I'm driving to Prudential to have the meeting. And for some reason, I look down at I'm at a stoplight. I look at my email, and his boss says, "Hey, I just want to let you know, Jeff passed away December 31st. Holy crap. And I was like, okay, that's it. And the message was there. It's time. So I took the time. I went to my financial guy. I said, "Here's all my assets." I did all this kind of stuff. And he said, "Yeah, you could retire." So I retired August of 2018, started getting involved with Tina like in September 2018. 2019, I did the whole workbook with her again, with the whole year. So, the guidance that comes, the visions, the seeing things, hearing things, it's making life make sense. And I'm eternally grateful for it. And I love you, Lynn. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. And Deb, and everybody in our family.
I know
I was going to say, where am I in this, Gene? Where am I?
Oh, you're definitely. Oh no,
I'm your biggest fan. I'm one of your biggest fans. So
the things that we've
me.
experienced and done together, and there's so much more to come.
Like how much we have grown just in the 6 months. We started doing this in December.
Yeah.
I have never done anything like this.
Every single day.
Every single day. I mean, it was enough. I would go to course meetings once a week, that kind of thing. And I did teach for a while, and when I was in the course. But what I taught back then was not the full breadth of the course as we all understand it now. So. It's
interesting that the way of mastery has helped me to understand A Course in Miracles even more. And just reading Outwitting the Devil made me completely understand why it's so important to do the retraining of our mind. Because if we're not, we're drifting, and we're drifting towards the darkness, not drifting towards the light, Just fascinating. Fascinating. I highly recommend everybody takes one weekend to put your digital devices away. It has been such a profound healing for me to be away from all of them. I did yoga out in the sun today at the request of Babaji, who came to me during meditation. I mean, it doesn't get better than that, I'm telling you. So I love you all. Gene, thank you so much for being with us. Norbert, Jackie, Lloyd, Deborah, Michelle, and hi, Jules Duquette. Welcome. It's been delightful having you here. Thank you for sharing the journey of your soul this lifetime with us, Gene. And Rob and I will be back here next week. It'll be our closing for the year. We will have done 9 months of this, a nice full gestation period. And then we're going to take the summer off, and we'll be back in September. So my love to all of you. Thank you to everybody on Facebook who joined us as well. Much love to all of you. And we will see you guys next week. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Lloyd.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Lloyd.
Bye.
Thank you.